Tammy Peters is an educational consultant and author. She earned a BA in elementary education and a minor in English from the University of Wisconsin in 1982, and an MA in reading from Cardinal Stritch University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1987. In her teaching career, she has taught in the elementary grades, has been a district reading specialist, and has instructed both at the undergraduate and graduate level. She retired from her position in 2013 as a third grade teacher at Mars Hill Academy, a classical Christian school in Cincinnati, Ohio, where she taught rote grammar curriculum and mentored the elementary staff. Currently, she and her husband live in Minneapolis and are grateful grandparents of 11 littles under the age of 9. Tammy is the lead architect and author of the Well-Ordered Language, The Curious Child's Guide to Grammar series. And then also, Tammy will let you know further into her talk as well. She has a workshop series coming on up in September. So just keep an eye out for that as well. Just wanted to let you know ahead of time. But yeah, Tammy, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Megan. What a joy. I'm so glad that I've been looking forward to this all summer, just having a chance to get started. Again, as Meg just introduced me, again, the other key thing that I'd have to share is that I married a HUD, and having 4 grown children and 11 littles, my life has been real full. We live now here in Minneapolis, but that was 6 years ago. We moved from Cincinnati. And again, as she said, I was a part of the classical Christian school, Mars Hill Academy, and I did teach 3rd grade, and I did write that curriculum. And the reason why those are important in my story is because that's kind of how we all began getting involved, how I got involved in grammar. In fact, during that time, I joined the staff in 2000, and we were at that time a maverick little school, a little in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we ended up writing a lot of our own curriculum. And I got my hands on Harvey's grammar. I don't know if you're familiar with Harvey's grammar. In fact, you can see some of the books behind me. I was collecting a lot of grammar books at that time. And collecting those, a lot of the grammarians of that time approached grammar in a different way. And again, we were trying to figure out how do you teach classically? How do you do this? And so again, reaching to the classics, or at least to the grammarians of the 1800s, I found out the logic was missing in our modern view of grammar. But that's all part of it. You'll hear it as I kind of go through it, but Harvey's grammar and how he approached grammar was foundational of how I began approaching grammar. He looked at terminology and shared the importance of it. And I realized, wow, that sounds like a key part. He showed the what and the why in instruction. I thought, wow, that must be really essential. So as I keep going through, you'll hear echoes of that. But before I get too far, I do want to, I would love it if you would go ahead and in that chat box, if you'd be kind enough and tell me where you're listening from, who you are, what school are you from, if you're a home educator, if you're a curriculum director, 4th grade teacher, whatever it may be. Would you just be kind enough to put that in? I like seeing that. Some of you have been so sweet and have shared where you've been and where you are. And I just like to kind of connect in that respect. So I'm excited that you're all in there. Jump in, help me feel where you're going from. I love the different places around the country. I think that's kind of the nice part about doing a webinar. You hear the places. I know that, see, we get them from South Dakota and Texas, Montana. Oh, how cool is that? So exciting. As we are going through, I do know that many of you are, some of you are classroom teachers, home educators, curriculum directors, even administrators. But today I wanted to ground you a little bit more into understanding grammar. And many times you find yourself in some curriculums not really understanding the reason why the material was put the way together it is. And I'm not sure how many of you have ever taught grammar formally before. Some of you had really good grammar teachers and you had found the gold, all right? You understand when you see a sentence, you understand the framework of it. You understand, wow, the principal elements, hence how everything works together. You receive the gold. others of you, I'm sorry, I was a part of that group. I wasn't taught grammar. That my grammar was, it kind of shimmered like gold. It was called language arts, and it was kind of thrown in there as an afterthought. Sentences were kind of put on the board sometimes, and we had to figure out why the comma was there or not, and never really understanding the underpinning, what was going on. You see, I titled this today that all that glimmers is not grammar, because a lot of us think we had something, but we really didn't. So as we move through this, grammar instruction can vary, but in reality, few programs today are intentional at actually teaching grammar with a goal in mind. So let's get started. Okay, so with that in mind, I've got a couple slides I want to work through. I think it might be easier for you. Welcome all. I can see you still coming in. And as you come in, please, in that chat box, even though we're moving to slides, keep adding. I just think it's so fun in that respect. So let's get started with. Ooh, there we go. And all the corners, here we go. As we get started, these are the 5 key elements that we're going to be talking about. And to know the language of a sentence. So if I had to think of the 5 essential elements of teaching grammar, these would be the 5. 1, know that language of a sentence. This is critical, the definitional aspect of it. I'll be talking about connecting the known to the unknown. Categorical learning. This may be new to you if you're just starting grammar, or perhaps if you've known it, you've never thought of it in these terms. The third thing I'll be talking about is knowing the what and the why of the elements in a sentence. That's the analysis, that's the logic. And then recognizing that relationship among elements, that's diagramming. But then the key element is to appreciate grammar, to enjoy the beauty of the language. I think that's often missed. So even as you hear these threads, you may hear the old grammarians, but a present day new grammarian, as in well-ordered language, you'll find these components. Let's take the first one. Know the language of grammar. While keeping in mind the goal of teaching grammar to the young student is to stir wonder and foster understanding of language. Definitional learning, which is our first one, is the process of memorizing foundational key elements. So how do you teach the language of grammar? How do you teach the language of instruction? Well, you sing, you chant, you recite, repeat, retell, rehearse, review. That's just good teaching practices. But in the same respect, as we're working through this, you'll see through this that the singing aspect of it is taking that definition and putting it to music. Now, I have to admit, I discovered this as, well, perhaps, I don't know, I grew up in a singing household. I know that sounds crazy. My mom would sing about virtually anything. I loved going to summer camp, learning Bible songs. All of that was part of perhaps my DNA. But as I grew older, when I was memorizing scripture, or in this case, in my classroom, I wanted to memorize a definition, I found that singing helped the frame of the child. They were able to pick it up quickly. You've seen this. You've seen youngsters, as cute as they could be 4, they listened to the first Disney music and they got it after the second time because they're wired that way. So when you're teaching the language of instruction, singing can be helpful, but a caveat there, just singing for singing's sake is not wise. So if you are one of those home educators or classroom teachers that go ahead and go, oh, singing a definition, make sure your definition is tight. And what I mean by that, when you ask the students, well, so what is a noun? That they don't give them extra information around it, but they tell a noun is a person, place, or thing, quality or idea. You've got a tight definition for them. Chanting, same thing. But what am I doing in that? I'm reciting, repeating, retelling, rehearsing, reviewing. Here's a classroom that is singing the 8 parts of speech. Now, I want you to listen carefully as we do this, because frankly, doing the 8 parts of speech, well, actually, let's stop and do this as a group. All right, so y'all can see me. Here we go. I want to teach you the 8 parts of speech before we get to that video clip. I want you to be thinking, if I were going to teach the 8 parts of speech, how would I do it? Now, I could drill it, or I could sing it. So some of you may have heard this before, but here we go. The 8 parts of speech are classes of words with the same kind of meaning and use. And they are nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs, preposition, pronouns, conjunction, interjections. At Mars Hill, the very first time I taught the 8 parts of speech, that's how I did it. I had the kids sway back and forth because frankly, the frame of the child is to move. So as my 3rd graders, we would swing back and forth. And you can imagine, all right, got a little movement going there. The 8 parts of speech are classes of words with the same kind of meaning and use. So what am I saying by that? Now, I don't know, again, wherever you are around the country, if we all took all the books that were around our homes or our schools or our classrooms or our libraries and threw them somehow on the floor and said, all right, let's have at it. Let's go ahead and organize all the words. If we could pull all the words out and we picked up every single word and said, what word is this? What kind of word is this? Ah, it's a person or it's a place or it's a thing. It's in the noun category. So I take that word, put it in the noun. I pull the next word out, jump. Oh, that shows action. That must be a verb. So if I took all the words in the English language and put them and categorize them, I'd get 8. Why do I spend so much time talking about this? Because this is the backbone of what we do in grammar. To understand the 8 parts of speech is like understanding the alphabet when you're doing spelling. Okay, you know that as well as I do. Those little ones, when they first know the alphabet, they're as cute as little bugs. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They're happy little cute things. All cell phones come out. Go ahead and you're taking those pictures of the little ones, the 2-year-olds that are singing the alphabet. But do they really understand what a C is yet? That has 2 sounds, or G has 2 sounds, good. No, but we're excited that they're memory picks. 8 parts of speech, same concept. They're singing the 8 parts of speech are classes of words with the same kind of meaning and use. And they are nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs, preposition, pronouns, conjunction, interjections. Let me do that again. So if we would say this all together, listen up, okay? Now, if we were all together, I'd actually have you do this with me. So you can do it and nobody's watching, right? You're at your own computer. Ready? The 8 parts of speech are classes of words with the same kind of meaning and use. And they are nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs, preposition, pronouns, conjunction, interjections. Now, if you're taking notes right now, you wrote on your sheet of paper, the 8 parts of speech are classes of words with the same kind of meaning and use. And then you wrote down nouns, and then you wrote verbs, you wrote adjectives, adverbs, preposition, pronouns, conjunction, interjections. Now, if this is the first time to well-ordered language, and you're actually kind of maybe even new to grammar, you might not know what those 8 parts are. And that's fine. Now, some of you have taught well-ordered language already. You're like, oh, that's already what they are. Actually, I can actually sing a song for each of those 8. That's good. That's where you're working toward. But it's a backbone. It's these memory pegs. So when I go in and we saw that little clip, I'm going to actually show you a class that this is actually in Cincinnati. This is from Mars Hill Academy. This is a class of little students that are singing the 8 parts of speech. Now, I want you to show you that they are not dying. Like, this is not like, oh no, it's grammar. You're going to see like, whoa, it's grammar. Because that's how it is. Grammar is a very exciting time. And it should be, according to the frame, right? Here we go. So let's get started. Let's see. Here we go. Oh my goodness, this is what it was like to teach. Honestly, I have to say this. This is a true story, okay? I would teach 3rd grade and I would do this. I'd start the class just like this. We would be moving in, and as the little ones would come in, I'd start them and we would say, what are the 8 parts of speech? And we'd jump around and leap and had a great time. And that's how we would start. So at the end of the year, again, teaching 3rd grade, okay, I was teaching 3rd grade and began writing this, well, actually, I was just writing the grammar, using Harvey's grammar, used it. And then, the kids just are just eating this up and loving it. So the administrator said, well, could you teach fourth grade? Could you just kind of keep going? So I taught fourth grade, and I pulled the information we did here, we build on it, right? And the fourth graders began going ahead, and we began learning the curriculum. I still taught third grade, but I came to fourth grade and began to write. Then all of a sudden I said, could you teach fifth grade? So I began going ahead and moving up and down the grades, writing the curriculum and finding the continuity. And we learned so much when we began doing this. We found that the students, again, love doing the singing, love doing the jumping. In fact, so much so at the end of the year, I would have little third graders, I'd say, so what was your favorite subject? Was it history? Like we did Roman history, like we would act it out. Or was it literature? Oh man, we used to, Little House on the Prairie Day, what could be better, right? All these good things, but I always have, Mrs. Peters, grammar was my favorite. Why? Because it's framed that I was teaching to the frame of the child. And it wasn't just third grade. Again, when I taught fourth grade or even fifth grade. Fifth grade, you're doing it with a different way, knowing the frame of the child, but they love singing just as much. Let's keep going. Definitional learning, critical. But this next part, connecting the known to the unknown. Good, again, just wise teaching practices, but this is categorical learning. What am I talking about? Well, in categorical learning, you have to appreciate that we are now considering learning the 8 parts of speech as the 8 categories of speech, the 8 categories of speech. Now, considering if you understand the definition of an adjective, that's good, right? You have to understand what questions and answers, what kind, which one, how many, who's you, that's really important. But how would you personify that? What would you do? What metaphor, what way could I help the students understand the category of it? Now, this particular book, I put this up here because, again, if you want the book, you can get it from English Grammar Revolution. It's a reprint of a 1900 book. And it's a child's picture grammar because this author, Prager, decided to, and George Allen, they decided to go ahead with pictures and with story, personify the 8 parts of speech. Now, the fascinating aspect, and if we had more time, I would take you through, and you'd see the noun as being the master of the house, and the common nouns as being common folk, and even abstract nouns as more like little sprites. Verbs are schoolmasters telling what to do. Adjectives are witches, which basically have the power to turn a noun into something hot, or turning a noun into something cold, or tall, or small. And adverbs were a swarm of little creatures that seemed to swarm around adjectives and adverbs and verbs. Prepositions were heralds, announcing what was coming behind, which was the object of the preposition or the noun. Pronouns were young gentlemen that were wannabes of the master, which was the noun. Conjunctions, right there, the picture right there in front of you, those are the conjunctions. They're little connectors. And the interjection, well, if you saw the picture, it's kind of unusual. I think they were just exclamation points. The point being is that how would you describe an adjective? What would you do? What picture would you draw? How would you help them? Don't give me adjectives. What is an adjective doing? In well-ordered language, I've got 4 pictures here because this is kind of what I did. I really did this. In fact, throughout the whole series, that metaphorical aspect of learning I use. You open to any of the chapters, and on the left side, you're going to have a beautiful picture, but the picture gives us a clue, which I write about on the right side. That cupcake is in the front. This is in level 1. How would I teach an adjective? If I were going to teach an adjective, I would think of a cupcake. Perhaps I'd bring in 3 little cupcakes. There your students are, whether you have, and whether you're a home educator or you have a classroom of 23 students, you have little cupcakes in front of you or little wafers. And then you take the jar of frosting, chocolate, and you frost that first one. And you say, students, everybody try the cupcake. You can imagine, whoa, what did you think of it? Oh, it was tasty, it was chocolatey, it was fudgy, whatever. You can go ahead and pull out those adjectives if you'd like to. Great, put them on the board. Take the next one, put on lemon. Oh my goodness, lemony, zippy, zesty, tangy, whatever words you come up with. And then the last one, you go around, you put guac. You slur guac. You'd eat the guac on the cake? What? Oh, the words. Oh, the rich words. But do you see the noun is the cupcake? The frosting is the adjective. That's what descriptive adjectives do, right? They help describe that cake. It can be chocolatey, lemony, or gross. I'm not sure. In level 2, same concept, except we use a pizza. In level 3, by this time, level 1 is beginning grammar. Level 2 is intermediate grammar. Level 3 is advanced grammar. And being advanced grammar, we are now talking about modifiers. So a plant, yes, a plant will help being part of the modifiers of how it's going to modify what plant it is. You're going to look at the petals and the leaves and whatnot. And level 4, we're going to look at houses, the doors, the windows, things along that line. I share these things is if I were there with you right now, you can flip open if you have your books with you. If you're in level 1, you're going to flip over to chapter 5. You're going to see that cupcake page, right? If you're in level 2, you're going to look to chapter 3. You're going to look at that pizza. In level 3, you're going to be on page 18 and 19 in chapter 1. And if you're in level 4, you would just literally turn to the first page 6. See, this aspect of grammar you're going to have to appreciate is not this categorical piece is so much more complex than just, well, adjectives aren't hard, Tammy. I don't know why you're making such a big deal of it. Well, see, adjectival elements or adjective elements span throughout all of grammar. I want you to know what a huge revelation and on my own learning when I realized it's the 8 categories of speech. And when I teach categorical learning, when I emphasize an adjective and realize that they understand it and they understand it well, they can go ahead and take on harder concepts. Let me show you what I mean. At the end of this, I know that Megan's going to send you, if you'd like, you'll get this chart. And what this chart shows is all of well-ordered language. These are all the things that we learn. This is what happens. Now, those little stars are there to help you see. Now, in level 1, you learn about the cupcake, okay? You learn about adjectives, that an adjective is a part of speech used to describe or define meaning of a noun or pronoun. It answers the question, how many, whose, which one, or what kind, right? No problem. They've seen the definition, they've got it down. But they understand this category so that when they move to level 2, once again, you're going to be getting into adjectives. We'll learn how to diagram, that's fine. But by chapter 6, we learn something new called a predicate adjective. They don't have a hard time with it because they kind of understand already what an adjective is. But by the second book in 2B, all of a sudden they're learning prepositional phrases can modify a noun. Now, this is mind-blowing to them because a phrase before they learned what a prepositional phrase is in level 1, but they're only adverbial at that point. In other words, they only behave like an adverb. This is a wannabe, okay, a prepositional phrase that behaves like an adjective. And by the end of 2B, they're learning of relative clauses or adjectival clauses, a clause that behaves like an adjective. In level 3, same thing. We're going back to adjectives. We're going a little bit deeper. This is the classical way. We also have sensory verbs. What I mean by that is, right, you go, the flower smells good. Good is your predicate adjective, right? But there's your adjective using with a sensory linking verb. Relative clauses, participial phrases, participles, and infinitives both behave like adjectives. And you see that by level 4, we are still working with adjectives. We're still working with prepositional phrases. You're still working with relative clauses. You're still working. Now, all of a sudden, a participial phrase, it's mind-blowing, is just behaving like an adjective. It's that category, categorical learning. So we've gone through the categories. So definitional learning, that's key, right? And we know that definitional, knowing the language of instruction, knowing the known to the unknown. Now it's knowing the what and the why. If anything at all, if you ever hear anything about well-ordered language, this is the component that sets this uniquely. It's not so much the what in a sentence, but it's the why. You see this as you say it, you also see it all rolled in one. It's a multimodal way of approaching grammar. Okay, you have the sentence on the board, you're going to say it and read it as a group, you're going to go ahead and mark it as a group, you're going to go ahead and see the relationships. What I'm going to show you is, well, first, before we do that, I'm going to first talk about the order of thought. Now, a thought, that's weird. What is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words expressing a complete thought. Okay, so what is the thought? So first of all, sentences, there are 4 kinds of sentences: declarative sentence, interrogative sentence, imperative sentence, exclamatory sentence. There are only 4. So again, for understanding thought, we need to know there's different kinds of sentences. We need to know principal elements. And the most beautiful thing, again, it was mind-blowing to me to realize there's only 3 kinds of predicates. 3, all right? You get the subject, predicate, verb. Okay, now granted, we all know that predicate verbs could be intransitive or transitive, but at the end of the day, they're both showing action. So subject, predicate, verb. And that's in level 1. That's all we focus on, that kind of predicate. In level 2, we introduce predicate nominatives and predicate adjectives. So again, we're building, slowly building, adding as we go. Principal elements, subordinate elements. Principal elements go above the sentence as we mark it. Subordinate elements always go below. Principal elements help the student immediately see what the sentence is about. Subordinate elements see, what do they connect to? What are they modifying? I just don't care that it's an adjective. Who cares that it's an adjective? I do care that it modifies what noun. Okay, so we're going to learn about modifiers, adjectives and adverbs, phrases, such as prepositional phrases primarily, but by level 4, you're going to learn also about participial phrases, infinitive phrases, verbal phrases, even adverbial phrases, gerund phrases. I know I missed one. So the verbal phrases, adverbial phrases, prepositional. There's a lot of phrases out there. They're all wannabes. And clauses, relative clauses, adverbial clauses, and noun clauses, all underneath. What is the order of thought? How do I go ahead and understand what's going on? I need to identify the sentence, that's the sentence, kind of sentence, principal elements, a lot of things to think about. Well, let me think one more thing. How is it structured? Well, there are 3 kinds, again, only 3 kinds of structures. So if I'm thinking of that thought, I'm thinking about sentences, my sentence is either going to be a simple sentence, a compound sentence, or a complex sentence. Now, most students, most of us, all of us are talking, we talk in compound, we hang out in the compound complex sentence world all the time. But when you're analyzing, you don't start with symphonies, you start with chopsticks or something that they can handle, something that is predictable, something that's helpful. So we start with simple sentences. And simple doesn't necessarily always need to be easy. You can have a very, very busy sentence with many, many phrases, but simple means it has just one subject and one predicate. Compound sentences has basically 2 simple sentences that have been hooked together using a conjunction or punctuation. But it's that complex sentences where you're heading toward, right? That's where we want to stay. That's where the student's ability to speak is at, where they have principal elements or principal clauses and subordinate clauses. So again, all of this there's just so much out there. That's the reason why grammar becomes murky for some. It's like, this is too confusing. This is too busy. Actually, when you break it into bite size, it's very predictable. When you're analyzing the what and the why, you keep it simple. Okay, a simple sentence contains just the principal clause and may have modifiers. So what I'm going to show you is what's the choral analysis. Again, this is what makes well-ordered language unique, makes it why you want to learn it. In just a moment, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole choral analysis. You're going to watch, you're going to hear how I first identify the sentence, that it is a sentence, and why it's a sentence. And you can almost hear that word, why, and I'm going to give the answers. I'll say, this is a sentence. Why? Because it's a group of words that express complete thought. You're going to hear that. Okay. So I'll identify the sentence, and then I'll identify the kind of sentence. Then I'll identify the subject. Then I'll identify the predicate. And then I'll identify the modifiers. Okay. This is what I'll do first. So listen up. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go right through. And again, if I were doing level 1, and this is the first time I've never done well-ordered language, I want you to understand what you're going to see right now is would take me 5 chapters to do. Your students will memorize this script. You will memorize the script. You will do it with them. But it's the framework. It's the scaffolding for learning. Watch. The clever fox waited patiently. This is a sentence because it's a group of words that expresses complete thought. This is a declarative sentence because it makes a statement. This sentence is about fox. So fox is the subject because it is what the sentence is about. This sentence tells us that fox waited. So waited is the predicate because it is what the sentence tells us about fox. It is a predicate verb because it shows action. There is no linking verb because predicate verbs do not need linking verbs. Patiently tells us how fox waited. So patiently is an adverbial element because it modifies a verb. It is an adverb. Clever tells us what kind of fox. So clever is an adjectival element because it modifies a noun. It is an adjective. The tells us which fox. So the is an adjectival element because it modifies a noun. It is an adjective. If you notice, I'm just going to take a moment right now because it's worth the pause here. Notice right away, if you didn't know anything else and the student walks in, they'll say, well, what are the subject and the predicate? What's the principal elements? Because how I marked it, it's got obviously the capital S and the capital PV above it. That helps identify it. Underlining it also helps it. And again, with a simple sentence, this is not rocket science. The students will be able to tell you what the adjective and the adverb are quite readily. But the lines help telling us, this is modifying this is modifying that. Remember, as I talked about that categorical learning, you heard that adverbial element that modifies a verb, it is an adverb. Well, of course it's an adverb. There's nothing else. But in this next set, when I have an adverbial element that modifies a verb, it is an adverbial prepositional phrase. Remember how I said prepositional phrases are wannabes? They want to be like an adverb. So this is the easy end. In other words, when we learn this and learn it well, when we learn the script, when we put more complex or harder elements of grammar, it's an easy step for them. It's an easier step. And if you get in level 1, if we do and you understand well, it makes level 2 that much easier. So when they do get to a relative clause, when they get to an adverbial clause in level 3, all of a sudden it all makes sense because it behaves like a simple sentence. Let's go on. I don't want to get into the weeds yet. So what is the order of analysis when you do get into phrases and you do get into clauses? How do you do it then? Do you jump right into the principal elements? Well, not so fast. This is worth its weight in gold. That's right. Because in grammar, if you understand, you look for phrases first, then clauses, then the principal elements, then the modifiers. It's the stepping stones to understand what's going on in a sentence. And again, right now in level 1, it's just understanding. It's beginning grammar. It's when you get it to advanced and intensive grammar that all of a sudden going, oh, wow, I see why you do phrases first. Oh, wow, I can see why you do clauses first. Because there's no way you can figure out principal elements until you get those things out of the way. Let me show you. Here's again a sentence. Here's a student that actually, this is great. It's a sentence that has 3 prepositional phrases. And I add this, okay, for the teachers in the group going, okay, wait a second, that's all really fine, but I don't want to talk to my students while they're doing it. No. Before they analyze, you have this sentence on the board. Beneath the full moon, Grandpa stands with Grandma near the garden wall. Okay, you have that up on the board. Perfectly great. You can discuss the sentence. How many prepositional phrases do you see? Ooh, do you see any modifiers in it? What would it be? You can discuss it, talk about it. You can talk about, you can break into song if you wanted to. What are all the prepositions? Break into song. But when you do the analysis, like what we'll do in just a moment, when you do the analysis, you don't talk. You let them do the choral analysis. It's like quick cement. You go all the way through it, and then afterwards you can still discuss it. Now, this little student, he's going ahead and marking it. We jump right into beneath a full moon. He's getting already into identifying the prepositional phrase, the first one. But notice the neat and petite aspect. Now, this may sound kind of funny, a little on the weird side, but I want to put this out there that marking neat and petite is helpful as the students are training their mind to think of what I'm doing, why I'm doing it. And as continue as you move on, it will be a aid to you. But let's go ahead and jump into this. Beneath the full moon, Grandpa stands with Grandma near the garden wall. Are there any phrases? Yes, ma'am. What would it be? Beneath the full moon.
It's the object of the preposition. Oh, tells us what kind of. So full is an adjective element because it modifies the noun. It is an adjective and an article adjective.
Are there any other phrases?
Yes, ma'am. With grandma is a prepositional phrase. With is the preposition. Grandma is the object of the preposition.
Oh, yeah. Are there any more?
Yes, ma'am. Here a carpet wall is a prepositional phrase. Here is the preposition. Wall is the object of the preposition. God is what kind of wall. So God is the right.
Right? So if you would, I just clipped that much, then we would go ahead and this point they'd say, read the sentence again. And they'd say, beneath a full moon, Grandpa stands with Grandma near the garden wall. This is a sentence and it's declarative. This sentence is about Grandpa. So they'd underline Grandpa. So Grandpa is the subject because it's what the sentence is about. This sentence tells us that Grandpa stands. So stands is the predicate because it is what the sentence tells us about Grandpa. It is a predicate verb because it shows action. There is no linking verb because predicate verbs do not need linking verbs. Then they go all the way to the end of the sentence. Near the garden wall tells us where Grandpa stands. You draw the line down. Near the garden wall is an adverbial element because it modifies a verb. It is an adverb. With Grandma, same thing. Drop down. With Grandma tells us how or whom Grandpa stands. So with Grandma is an adverbial element because it modifies a verb. It is an adverbial prepositional phrase. Beneath a full moon tells us where Grandpa stands. So beneath a full moon is an adverbial element because it modifies a verb. It is an adverbial prepositional phrase. All of that to say is where you're going forward, seeing, but look how neat and petite that he had done. So if we were going to do this one, let's go ahead. So some of you are becoming a pro now. If I were going to do this with you, say it with me. And if you're not, then listen carefully. Ready? Patiently, the clever fox waited under the grapes. The order of analysis is phrases, clauses, principal element modifiers. Are there any phrases? And you'd say, yes, ma'am. What would it be? Under the grapes is the prepositional phrase. Under is the preposition. Grapes is the object of the preposition. The article adjective. Are there, let's read it again. Patiently, the clever fox waited under the grapes. This is a sentence and it's declarative. This sentence is about fox. So fox is the subject because it is what the sentence is about. This sentence tells us that fox waited. So waited is the predicate because it's what the sentence tells us about fox. It is a predicate verb because it shows action. There is no linking verb because predicate verbs do not need linking verbs. Under the grapes tells us where the fox waited. So under the grapes is an adverbial element because it modifies a verb. It is an adverbial prepositional phrase. Clever tells us what kind of fox. So clever is an adjective element because it modifies a noun. It is an adjective. The article adjective. Patiently tells us what kind of, patiently tells us how the fox waited. So patiently is an adverbial element because it modifies a verb. It is an adverb. Now, again, you notice how the lines don't crisscross. You saw lowercase letters on the lower end. You see capital letters on the above them. You're seeing neat and petite. That's kind of what we're working from. Let's watch another. This is another one with a question. Now, in this particular one, we've got sensory linking verbs. I have this clip in here because it's a higher end. It's in, I believe, in level 3. But did Valley Forge stay rocky and desolate in the barren months?
Did Valley Forge stay rocky and desolate in the barren months? There are conjunction in the sentence. What is the conjunction? Good.
We'll get there. Yes.
Read again. Did Valley Forge stay rocky and desolate in the barren months? The order of analysis is phrases, causes, physical elements, modifiers. Phrases. Do we have a prepositional phrase? What is it? In the barren months. Barren tells us what kind of months. So, barren is adjective. Pause there. Let's read it again. Did Valley Forge stay and desolate in the barren months? This is a sentence and it is asks a question. This sentence is about Valley Forge. So what the sentence is about. This sentence tells us that Valley Forge is staying rocky and desolate. So rocky and desolate are the predicates because they're what this sentence tells us about Valley Forge. They are predicate adjectives because they describe a quality of the subject and is a conjunction in the yes. Did stay is a because it excellent. The barren months tells us so in the barren months is an adverbial element that modifies. It is an adverbial prepositional phrase.
I thought this was helpful for you to see where we end up from the simple to the next. So our next aspect, okay, so we have our language of instruction, right? We've got our definitions, we've got the categories working, now we understand the analysis. Well, in levels 2, 3, and 4, we pick up diagramming. And the diagramming aspect is to recognize the relationships among the elements. So if you had a sentence like the clever fox waited patiently, right? How would you visualize that? Well, if you remember, you see there, you've got the principal elements above the line, the subordinate underneath. You also see, according to the markings, what they're modifying. Well, when you diagram, it's the same concept, right? You got the fox, waited, the and clever goes under fox, waited, patiently goes under waited. Visually, it's what's happening when you have that the markings, you can see it with a diagram. And then if you have a prepositional phrase, well, of course, that goes under it. But it's not so much about the quote unquote simpler sentences, it's more toward the more complex. Can you imagine if you had this the poem, "Oh, crest, why do you raise a roar, rising, collapsing, surging on, heading toward the sandy shore, till you wave, and then you're gone." Notice how even in this diagramming, we could sit and talk about diagramming further, but we do include punctuation. Now, not all diagramming grammarians do, but we do. We put the question mark in to help the students know. And in fact, we even put the comma before the and to help them understand that this is a compound sentence, and in case this is actually a compound complex sentence. But again, we work toward that. That's what level 4, we work toward that intensity. But I would be amiss if we did not appreciate grammar to enjoy the beauty of language. That is our 5th and final element that we need in grammar. Let's do this one. Okay, we'll finish this up and then I'll take some questions. The old man, this is from Heidi. The old man opened the door, and Heidi followed him into a good-sized room, which was embraced the whole hut. In it were a table and a chair. In one corner was the grandfather's bed, and another the fireplace where hung the large kettle. On the other side, in the wall, was a large door, which the grandfather opened. It was a cupboard. Now, to all being honest with you, there's only 2 sentences here. That's a lot of work there for 2 sentences. But how would a student make sense of it? The order of analysis of phrases, clauses, principal elements, modifiers. Students, are there any phrases? Yes, ma'am. Look at how by identifying the phrases, you're helping to find out, well, what really is this all about? If I take the clauses out, I can be able to identify this. The old man opened the door and Heidi followed him. Now, the interesting thing in that next sentence, did you see in it were a table and a chair? Well, we would say a table and chair were in it. In one corner was the grandfather's bed. In another hung a large kettle. These are actually, by visualizing it, these sentences are actually inverted. Okay, they're backwards in a sense. In fact, by taking this apart grammatically, by looking at helping the students see that this whole sentence really about an old man opening a door and Heidi falling into an overcrowded, overstuffed, backwards room, did you see how the author used her grammar in such a way to make things backwards, awkward, difficult almost to read? Because that's exactly what she wanted. She wanted the reader to feel how awkward this room was. She wanted to see that they were putting the subject and the predicate, actually the subject at the end of the sentence in many cases. How confusing it all really was. And that's what she did with her language. You wouldn't know that by just looking at it, but you have tools now by which you can go ahead and see the beauty of both the art of writing, but seeing how grammar can be used. As we've come through, we've gone through a lot, right? We have done the 5 different elements. But I also want to put this plug in that Megan, if you came in late, Megan put in the plug. If you guys, I'd love to meet you. And if you happen to be in the Minneapolis area or in the cities, and you'd like to come and see a live workshop, I'm going to be doing a breakout session in Minneapolis at the Godward Life Conference, hosted by Bethlehem College and Seminary on September 29th and 30th. This just in a month. For more information about the conference, you can go to godwardlife.com. And if you mention that you heard it from here, you can use the discount. You can get a $10 gift discount. And I know Megan will put this in the chat clip or in the notes, but include this code. Ready? Here's the code. Write it down. Capital C, capital A, capital P, then write 10. So CAP 10 is your code to get a discount. So I hope to see you there. But now I'm here to go ahead and love to hear any questions that you might all have.
Awesome. Thank you, Tammy. I'll go ahead and go through some of the chat box as well for any questions in there. But if you had a question in the chat box, feel free to also put it in the Q&A box if we're not finding it or something. So we'll just start out with what's in the Q&A. So Jamie Pickering asks, do the teacher books have the scripts written out in full?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Yes, they do. In fact, we have them for each of the lessons. We have them for the teacher. They're also something called the sentence bank. And that's the back. The students do not have access to it, but you do. So you can have additional sentences with the script there that you can use and work from it. The other thing for you, in fact, I know Meg will perhaps put that, or if not in the email, there's some training videos that CAP has for you that would be helpful, by which you could watch me do them. I think that's the best way to describe it. There's some of the sentences, because I must admit, I agree with you. I need to see how it's done. And that's kind of exactly what it does. These training videos show how you would, at least how it would sound and it would look like to do some of these, especially if it's the first time through. It's very helpful to have that for you.
Awesome, thank you. And then also just to answer a few of your questions in here about resources, on Tuesday, I will follow up with you guys with an email once we have a recording of this session all ready to go. It will have a PDF with some of the things that we've gone through in the session with Tammy, and links to the videos, the discount code for the conference she'll be at. So if there's anything else along those lines that you'd be interested in, just feel free to put it in the chat, or you can message me directly as well.
Megan, another resource that I just, again, I'm always floored. I do workshops all over the country, and I'm always floored when I come to this, that they never realize that they're the songs that we sing, or the music that there is, or the chants, that is actually MP3. That's you need to get it. It's not, you need to make sure you get that. And if you're an administrator, make sure you get that for your teachers. And if you're a teacher and you don't have it, make sure you ask your curriculum director, we need the music. The other thing is that, I know this sounds strange, and sometimes the obvious is not the most obvious, but there's an assessment PDF that, again, if you're an administrator, if you didn't get the assessment PDF, make sure you get that for your teachers. I just recently heard a dear teacher who had it in her teacher's edition, the answer key, but didn't know where the quizzes were. And so therefore she actually made her own quizzes each time. So don't do that to yourself. Teachers, ask your administrator, I need the assessment. So those two things are really important. I want to make sure you have access to.
Perfect, thank you. Next up, Susan Loudon asks, what do you advise for first and second grade grammar?
Excellent. You know, I am putting a pitch in there, Lord willing, a primer's coming out. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But there's hopefully there's going to be one coming out shortly, probably within the next year or so. But if you're not, and you're like, oh, but I want to do this now, get that MP3 of the music and sing to those, because that's the frame of the child. Enjoy the 8 parts of speech. Let them relish in knowing and singing about prepositions or pronouns or whatever the case might be. So take advantage of that in your early grades. Don't worry about the analysis yet. That honestly, it's you can, but why? It's this, you're working on just knowing your letters and what have you, but enjoy the singing part. I think that's really key. And I know some of you came in late, so if you didn't sign in, please do, wherever you are. Don't be shy, go ahead. Tell me where you are from. I'd love to know. It's always so fun. Megan, do you have any other questions, Megan?
Yes, perfect. It also kind of follows up with what you just said, but Joseph Vituli asks, at what grade level do we expect students to do more complex analysis?
Absolutely. Complex analysis, again, in level 2, you're getting your very first taste of it, and you're getting relative clauses. And again, that's beginning. Okay, so level 1 is beginning grammar. Level 2 is intermediate grammar. Okay, and that's where you're going to get, first time you're getting complex sentences. Level 3, all of a sudden you get advanced grammar. And man, it is, you're going to get a full dose. It is definitely the complexity that you are looking and seeking, right? You're going to go ahead and get both relative clauses and adverbial clauses by level 3. Level 4 is intensive, and you'll get your noun clauses there. You'll get all your verbal phrases. You will get the high octane, what all grammarians really love to do. That's level 4. But you can't do the symphonies until you learn the first part.
Awesome. Another one from Abby Wickersham asks, I know each chapter has one sentence with scripts, but is there a place that has all of the scripts written out for each practice sentence?
No, that's a really good question. But if you look at them and when you get started, it'll seem a little bit overwhelming, but there is a predictability in it that the very first sentence you have the script, and then you'll have 2 more sentences that more than likely are very similar to that, where you can actually plug in that subject and predicate and feel like, oh, I'm okay. I do know, in fact, I just recently talked at one of my workshops of she's a 5-star teacher down in Arkansas. I mean, I'm just super impressed with her. But she goes, the first year I did it, she goes, I have to admit, I actually wrote out the script and I left blanks and I put the words in because I needed that as quote unquote a crutch. And it's not a crutch. It's exactly what I would recommend for you to learn it. The kids will learn it faster than you. In fact, I have to let you know, it's a slow on-ramp. So if you do level 1, it's a slow on-ramp for both you and your students to learn the script. Don't step over it. Make sure it's choral analysis. Again, when I talked about Harvey's grammar, this was the secret of the old school teaching. That choral analysis is you're saying and you're hearing and you're involving the students. Do not make it independent work. Do not hear me from me now. You do not say, all right, go ahead and do this by yourself. No, you are saying them out loud. You're talking and doing, and then they'll learn it. Then you'll learn it. It will work better. Any other questions?
Amazing. There's another one here in the chat box from Amy Morgan. She asks, do you have suggestions for students who are getting a late start in grammar, and such as 7th and 8th grade? How can a teacher or parent get them caught up in time for excellent high school writing?
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it is a work in progress. There is called an intense prep. There is a PDF that CAP has that students that are going into level 3A or that advanced grammar can take to get them up and running and get them set, because that's an often thing. I'll say, I've never had grammar before, or my school, I have students that are coming in and this is level 3 in their 5th grade, and what do I do? To have them take, we used to call it a boot camp. It was before they even came into Mars Hill, we had them go through this intensive before they came in there. Now, addressing your question, you can get them to do kind of a boot camp, a way to get them started. Again, depending on your school, where you are, I've seen schools take the 3A, that advanced grammar, and do it in 5th grade. And then in 6th grade, they do 3B. And then they do 7th grade, they do 4A, and then they do 4B. So in other words, they take it through the middle school years to take that intensive grammar to prepare them for it. So that's an idea. I don't know if that would help or not.
Perfect. I'm just scrolling through to see any other questions. So if you had one that we haven't answered yet, feel free to pop it in the chat or the Q&A box, just because it's kind of hard to go through and find some of them in here. But let's see here.
I love these questions. I'm sure you're going to have more. And if you do think of them when you do get your email on Tuesday, I guess, from Megan, and you feel like, oh, I did want to ask that question, or you're viewing this after this is a webinar, go ahead and reach out to Megan and saying, oh, I had a question about this, and she'll get to me. Or if later on, again, maybe it's next week, you get this past that, whatever that Magic Tuesday is, you can always reach out to CAP and saying, I've got a question for Tammy, and it will get to me. But I am so excited for this fall. I really, again, to the different places I've been, the workshops, the places around the country, and then even this, I am so excited to see, because this is not just about learning grammar, but it's about taking hold of our English language. I feel like we're in a real critical zone right now. Many people don't understand what thought is, let alone how to craft it well and how to speak and think clearly. So there's a lot here. I hope it's clear, and I hope, as one teacher said to me, Tam, the secret about well-learned language is let the curriculum work. And I think as moderns, we always want to do it fast. We want to push it fast. We want to go ahead and truncate it. We let them do it independently. We don't do that choral piece. We rob the curriculum from doing its magic. We don't understand that actually that repetition, and to do it lively, and to do it peppy, and to do it with energy, makes it part of that scaffolding that puts in their hard drive that they understand it well. Remember, not all that glitters is grammar. Not all of that out there is really good grammar programming. This is the gold you've been looking for. There you go. So I'm so appreciative of all of you. I hope you all have a great year. God's blessings to you all. And again, I'd love to connect with you in some way. If not, may you do well this year.